Welcome back to Wisdom Rising. I'm your host, Christine Renee, and today I'm joined with our special guest, Jess Mangum, who is a phenomenal individual. I can't wait to dive into this conversation today. She is a guide and support for other healers and intuitives and identifying and strengthening their gifts, fulfilling their soul's purpose, and catapulting their higher self in connection with divine source to the next level of awareness. And so I know, I know that this is going to be a really interesting and dynamic conversation. One, I feel like we have a lot of similarities in our practice. And two, we want to bring forward a conversation that's very inspirational in the times that we're experiencing now. I know in my own personal practice over at Moon Rising Shamanic Institute, I've had numerous students and clients and people in our community reaching out about how heavy they're feeling right now and how they can really like shift out of it. So I'd love to have this dynamic conversation about like what are some real true resources that we can offer our communities to help them remember who they are and why they are here in this present time to do this work. So welcome to the show, Jess. I'm so excited to have you on.
I'm excited to be here. I was thinking they're probably wondering, why did I choose to be here right now?
I know, right? Like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?
So intense. So yeah, along the lines of what you're saying, I think you and I both feel it with our clientele, and you and I both look at patterns and the behavioral patterns of the ones that are coming to see us, and just what the heck. The shift is real, and I think as you and I talked about, and you brought up, a lot of us are feeling like our roots just being ripped from the ground and just kind of like we're flailing like this, going, how do we handle all of this? Um, so I will share with you, I was channeling, it was the beginning of December last year, and I realized, one of my not so strong suits, and you're great at this, so I admire that, is bringing people together. It's very heart chakra, and I'm all like throat and third eye and like, oh, like different, talking to myself. But it was abundantly clear to me. They said next year is going to be very much about people coming together and creating this like spider web or safety net of love. And it sounds cheesy and whatever, but I'm seriously, like, we need to hold each other's hands and hold them tight, because we're going to feel just like we're in this wave pool. So I think that's the biggest piece right there, community.
And I love that point because I felt it. I've been feeling it for months of this draw to do more offerings in person, to see and connect in a real tangible way. I'm like, yes, absolutely. I'm there for my students and my online community. And there's this definite like shift into I need my people, I need my community, I need to hold hands, like physically hold hands with my neighbors and feel that connection and know that I'm not alone. And so whether we're doing it online energetically of like, you're not alone. I'm here in solidarity and allyship with you and in the struggle of like, we can support one another. And I see you, I see all of who you are. And be of that place of acceptance, accepting of one another and supporting one another. And what does that look like? And I know for myself that my root chakra over the last few months, yeah, it's been feeling like it needs that nourishment of the soil. Like, where are my deep roots? Where am I putting my roots down? How am I connecting into the tangibility of human life? Of like, I haven't seen my goats in months. Like, I'm part of a community, we share the responsibility. I'm like, I haven't done anything with my goats for months. And, it's time to start thinking about the gardens that we want to plant and how we want to build that space and how I want to connect with my neighbors and potlucks and share space with the people in my life and really form those true bonds once again, even though they might be different, even though they might have different opinions and all those things. But how can we know each other as humans and lovingly accept one another and support one another and share who we are and be witnessed and be seen and do that like with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's as you were talking, I wrote down a couple of things because they hit me and I was like, oh, this is so spot on, of course, right? You said, I see all of who you are. And I thought about it was the whole, me saying social media, and just all of this, it feels, everything feels kind of like superficial. And maybe that's what that chaos and that creative process starts out as, because we're still trying to figure out like what this is all going to look like. Right. But I love that you said that. I see all of who you are, because right now for me, it is about absolute authenticity. And even though it's so uncomfortable, finding the people with whom we can be vulnerable, because a lot of us, we put up, especially healers,
Yeah.
we put all these like, I got to protect my heart because I've had to take care of so many people for so long, that now it's like we're safe. It's okay. So I love that one phrase that you said. Authenticity is so huge right now, and acceptance, self-love, all the things. And you brought up the root chakra too. I mean, it's so interesting. The patterns I'm seeing, it's a lot of familial stuff. It's a lot of like love relationships that are just kind of crumbling in sync with what's happening politically and educationally. And I mean, I kind of want to move out there to Montana with you, as you know, to hang out with your goats too, because
We need that root chakra support. Like I am always like advocating like what makes you feel that safety, what makes
uh,
you feel connected to that earth. What practices are you doing that says I am one with the earth, she is me and I am her, and I can breathe with the earth. Like, and I
yeah,
think this is why I love like the roots of Reiki, of going, our founder Asui was practicing mountain aestheticism, which was a 21-day practice of becoming one with the mountain. Like everyone like blankets believes that like he did 21 days of meditation. I'm like, that's so surface level. Like he was practicing this beautiful art of becoming one with the earth beneath his feet, and like, how are we remembering that we are with the earth, we're in partnership with the earth, that she is nourishing us, and how do we feed our roots so that we can feel safe amongst the chaos?
yeah. The other thing too, in conversations with, I call her Mother Earth guy, I mean, whatever, right? Is when I have people do the meditation, they bring the light in, they bring all of the colors in through the chakras and the energy fields. And then I have them blast that light that's coming from the heavens down to her.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something about that reciprocal balancing of the energy, because I'm sure she's down there going, what are these people doing?
Mm-hmm.
And that light, she has access to it, but I feel like as we are the conduits, we're also like blessing her with that as a means of gratitude while she holds us stable. Like, we've got this. Like, we're teaming up with Mother Earth that way too. It's funny that you say that, because I have a friend who's a gardener, and she's like, I'm coming over next week to plant wildflowers in your backyard. I'm like, I don't garden, but it just seemed timely.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, and,
so,
and I think that's a really good um, symbolic thing. Like, how are we sowing the seeds of
yeah,
beauty in our backyards?
yeah,
How are we saying yes to friends to blessing us with those seeds? Because I think that the idea of wildflowers, there's not much tending to them. They can be wild, like the wild feminine within us. Like they can be
yeah,
wild, they can spread, they can do what they will do. And yet it blesses us with so much beauty and understanding of like, there we can still be sowing the seeds of beauty in our lives amongst whatever is happening in the world.
yeah,
And I love that invitation of like, you're planting seeds for the future. How are you planting seeds in your life for the future to feel connected and stable, and knowing that the earth herself, she is readily available to compost shit. Like she will take your releases, she will take your heaviness, she'll take it all and transmute it. And we have to let go. We have to do this surrendering to release the heaviness within our energy fields, within our emotions, within our physical bodies, and do this bit of purging of going, I don't need to hold on to this any longer. Like she can take it, she can transmute it, she can alchemize it, she can compost it and give us the blessings of the nourishment that the earth has to offer. And so
Yeah.
like I feel like if we can all like remember our roots, remember our roots right now, what's going to help us feel secure and stable and safe?
Yes. You're talking about the future too, and I do see with all of the chaos. I call it the zygote. Like we're in the zygote phase right now. That's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that beautiful stage of pregnancy is it's such a great time of creation. So you're talking about the earth. I'm also talking about with the sacral, like doing artistic types of endeavors. But I was as you were talking, I was thinking about all of the fear that's been presenting itself and remembering essentially because I get sucked into it too. Do you ever like you hear people talking and then it's like
Well, and I recognize and witness it. And I also like, when we're looking through our feed on social media, it's like how easy it is to go click that thing that like grabs your attention and
yeah,
going like, I have this very clear awareness of like, if I click that, it's going to change my whole algorithm. It's going to change my energy of my feed. And I'm making a choice. Do I want to like that? Do I want to view that? Even clicking it to view it is going to change your algorithm. And so I really find that my social media algorithm oftentimes is a mirror of my energy state,
oh absolutely, I love
right?
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Because it will show you where you're at energetically. Are you down in the depths of like the ugliness of the world? Or are you getting all these beautiful positive messages of people supporting one another, right? Like
Yeah.
it's totally based on the energy that you put into an algorithm and it will show you exactly where you're at. And so I use it as a mirror often of like, and having the awareness of like, I can get distracted by this. I totally could, but I'm making another choice. And that doesn't mean that I don't go read the headlines of the news. Like I still want to know what's going on in the world, but I'm doing that on a different platform. Like I
Yeah.
want to just, and I'm not getting into the articles necessarily, but I want to have a general overview of a snapshot of where the world is at, knowing that when conversations come about in groups, that I'm at least in the know, but at the same time, I feel like I do my very best to be, I don't want to say disassociated, but disconnected. Like
Like detached.
I'm detached to the outcome because
Yeah.
there is that crown chakra point of view of like everything is happening for a reason and purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, the heaviness right now is happening for reason and purpose. Like, there's always this balance of the light and the dark in the world. And that's literally why we come to the earth. Like I never say like we're not here for vacation. The earth is like a messy place of emotions and energy and lessons and learnings, and it's not easy. It's not an
No.
easy place to be. And so here we are during a what feels like a messy chaotic time, and recognizing what it that there's reason and purpose for it. Like there's is it a catalyzer for us to connect deeper within ourselves and create this network of community, that we are light workers and we can make a light energy grid that's in, it almost feels like a celestial warfare with the dark heaviness energy, but we have the power. The whole thing with the darkness is they want to make us forget that we are powerful, right? So if we can step into our light fully and authentically and be in our truth selves, if I'm in conversation with others and they're in complaining mode, I don't want that complaining mode to affect my energy. And so
Right.
I can be disconnected and detached from it and witness their struggle, but I'm still going to hold my light in that conversation. And if I can offer support in some way to lift them up and out of the conversation of the heaviness, because it's happening, the heaviness is here, right?
Yeah,
And what's our job? What's our job as light workers, as intuitives, as healers in this moment now? Is it to get in the muck, or is it to grab hold of everyone and help us come up in ascension?
for sure. I've had, tying in with what you're saying, I've had to be very deliberate too with what it is that I'm watching. And we forget. It seems so, what's the word? Innocuous?
Mm-hmm.
Like us watching certain things on TV or just absorbing certain aspects of it. So like, oh, here, this little thing. It's shiny. But I do notice and I observe with my own third eye energy. And I remember hearing, channeling again, this is whatever you're putting into your field is going to be what your reality becomes.
Yeah.
It's what I would call the mirror theory. And so we really do need to be careful about what we're putting into our bodies, not just ingesting, right? We're not talking about what we're drinking, smoking, eating. It's more about what we're visualizing. Like I'm looking out at my yard and all I see is trees. Obviously, it can't be like that all the time. Like driving in the city of Charlotte is a nightmare, and I can't protect my third eye from that. I wish I could close my eyes some days. But making those choices really helps us to concretize is the best word I can come with that foundation. And that's the other thing too. I find, and you're probably finding it too, I have to go back to those practices that are very fundamental for me.
Yes.
I have to every morning wake up and like assess my body, say, the Reiki prayer, do, Reiki. Usually it's the solar plexus because I'm stepping into my power.
Mm-hmm.
There, Reiki the heck out of my power center and then maybe do my crown. But I have to do that right when I wake up in the morning so that when my feet hit the floor and I go to grab my coffee, I'm in a grounded mind space and I can start diagnosing, okay, where am I feeling like I'm being pulled, right?
Yes.
Because that's too.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I feel like for those of us who are listening to this, if you're listening, know that you give yourself grace. If you found yourself in a spiral of negativity and depression and anxiety and those spaces and places where you are complaining and feeling the heaviest, like give yourself a nice deep breath of grace and compassion because things right now are heavy. And what can you do? Like Jess is speaking of, what's your foundational practices? Like, what can you do on the daily to remember who you are and come into your aligned state of groundedness, of connection with divine? Like, what's that look like? And I feel like there's a lot of that, like right now. There's a lot of energy workers and healers that are having to remember their foundational practices. Like I
Yeah.
woke up this morning and was like, I think I need a Reiki shower. I think I need to do chakra spinning in the shower. I feel like I just need to energetically purge. And that's going to be my morning practice. And that's going to feel good. And then I'm to know that like maybe I'm absorbing energy from the world right now. Maybe I'm just a magnet to alchemize this. And is that my intention or do I not want that? Like sometimes I find myself in groups that I'm just being the empath. I'm soaking it all up on their benefit and going, now where do I need to purge it and let it go? How do I intentionally shower? How do I intentionally chakra spin? How do I intentionally evaluate where I'm at and going, this isn't mine? And I
Yeah.
know that I can release it to the earth for her reuse and recycling, right? So it's like, give yourself grace. Give yourself so much grace because this isn't easy work. And so
Yeah.
noticing if you're just absorbing and how do you release it, like come to the end of the day or come to the end of that interaction or that social setting and release and know that you can put in energetic boundaries so that you don't have to. It can be a choice that I'm now within this group, this community, and I'm being a sponge for their benefit. And or I don't want to be and I'm not available for that. Like you're in free will control sovereignty of your energy and you get to decide, but you need to do it intentionally.
Discernment is key as well. I think that kind of sums up it's knowing, what is yours, what's others. And then when you realize it's other, did you struggle with that early on? Maybe you
Oh
didn't.
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
And discern, like I
and
had
and just taking on everybody's stuff all of the time.
yeah. And being
Absolutely.
like, they're upset. Like, what did I do to upset them? I think that's kind of the mind of the healer or the empath. Like, they're angry. I must have done something. And I finally learned like that, like I have to do the body pendulum. Do you ever do the body pendulum where your
I
body leads or another?
I'm not very good at it. Like my ego gets too much in the way.
Oh,
Whereas it's
I use it everywhere. I use it in the grocery store because I can't like bring my pendulum to the store because that would
right.
be it'd be like, oh, witch. But I'll sit there and go, this person's really upset and they're accusing me of blah blah blah, and I will be like, is this my stuff? And I will lean back, and it's like a no, straight
Nope.
up, no, not mine.
It's
So then
theirs.
that whole, you probably have different ways that you do it, but for me, it's breathing techniques. It's like I
Mhm.
always tell people, breathe in your name all the way down to your root, like squeeze in your what I call the Hawaiian point, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Chakra, and then breathe out their name and do that several times, because then you start to realize, oh my gosh, like it feels so much better. They were just dumping.
Yeah. I want to
So
I want to reemphasize that. So you're breathing in your own name, claiming your power, and
correct.
you're breathing it into the weigh-in point, which for of those of you who don't know, this is your hara. This is like that space between the solar plexus and the sacral chakra, that power center, very much in Asian studies, right? So you're breathing your power in, you're breathing in your name, and then you're exhaling, you're releasing this other person's name to release it from your body. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So you're working with the element of air.
Mm-hmm.
And with family stuff, it's huge. You know that family is the hardest.
Well, yeah,
So
we all have these soul agreements and contracts to learn from them. So it can get it gets especially messy with those relationships.
so yeah, there's a lot of that right now, and just making it through the day can be awfully interesting. So
Yeah. And this is where I'm like, what techniques and things do you like to do
cool.
throughout your day rather than I need to do an hour-long practice? I think there are so many healers and spiritual seekers that they read the books, they watch the things, and it's got to be this big emphasis on a ceremony or a ritual that takes up all of this time and you're doing it all day long. And I'm like, no, no, no. What if we just did 10% of our day, which means like 6 minutes every hour? What if you do 6 minutes?
I really, the number four, the square, right? I love
Mm-hmm.
numerology. Consistency of practice, it's key. It's the foundation. So like you're saying, and I work with a lot of moms, people who are working full time. We've got to be in this world. It's not like you can be like, oh, excuse me, patient, I have to go over here for 6 minutes and meditate and breathe, or for like
Right.
whatever. So it really is kind of catching yourself. For me, it's identifying where in your body you tend to pick stuff up. For most that I work with, it's the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a subtle, like, ooh, this feels heavy.
Yeah.
So, like, identifying when something's off. It could be something that someone did. It could be the way they're driving. It could be just the way someone looks at you. And all of a sudden, like, phew, catching that, really feeling it, and then using that breathing technique,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And I
Clearing, you said releasing is huge. Um, Clearing, you work with salt a lot. I use salt for everything.
sometimes, not always, like I definitely recently have, like I'm definitely like going, okay, my this intentional jar that I had created, I put an intention in it and carried with it with me for a couple weeks, like to do some deep intentional work. And then I
Yeah.
dumped it all out. I took out the pieces, I buried them in like a bowl of salt, and like I now they're like in the window receiving the sun. Like there's definitely methods in which I use with salt. And it all comes back to intention. Like, what are you available for and what you're not? And so, like, if you believe that it's done, it's done. Like, I think that knowingness is so much. So if you need to do a ritual to get into your knowingness that it's done, fantastic. Do that.
Yeah. It's so the salt that I use, or what I use salt and water and mix it. It's whenever I do Reiki, when I teach the Reiki, I teach people like clean your hands. Obviously, you do like this type of thing.
Like brushing off. Yep.
Uh, but I'll use it at the back of my neck. Now, that's because you channel too, but I do a lot of channeling. So, where the God mouth is, a lot of people may be finding tension in their shoulders, and that's because all this heart is expanding. But I'll use salt here, back of the neck. I use it on my lower back. I use it in the dark areas. So, my pits and the groin area, the feet, the hands.
Mm.
And just, I sit there and I look up and I'm like, cleanse this off me. I may not even know what it is, but just allow it to flow down the drain. And of course, thank Mother Earth for transmuting it.
Oh, I love that. I love it.
So
And I would love for you to speak a little bit more about the God's mouth, because I don't think a lot of my audience recognizes that term. So would you describe that a
yeah,
little bit further for us?
sure. And that's interesting. I could hear you almost ask that before you asked it. Imagine it. The telepathy that's going on right now.
Mhm.
Um, so I call it the God mouth. Edgar Casey talks a lot about it. It's like when we're channeling, it's that back part of the throat chakra where the information comes in. It's not like you can see it, but I can tell you firsthand. I remember early on when before I even started doing this work, like I started hearing things and being like, what is wrong with me? Like there are men talking to me in my ear, in my head. But like feeling this tension. So when I'm sitting there meditating and answers will come through, and I usually put them in my newsletter or I'll do blogs, right?
Yeah.
We'll feel that tension, and I realize that's what's coming through. If I'm doing medium work, because we didn't really talk about that,
Mhm.
I see that.
Me too. I get it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Yay, I cross them over, all that. But when they come in, ultimately it's through here, sometimes through my third eye, if I'm like seeing what happened or, what happened to them. Um, but so that's what it's called. It's the God mouth, where we are the receptor of that fast moving information that's coming in. It's like we're translating it through the back of our neck.
Yeah.
So it might be, you can look up Edgar Casey neck exercises. It's like you bring your head up and down and to the side. It feels good anyway. It's good for the brain and for the blood flow up to the head. But it really opens that up. And that brings up another point, which is, a lot of what I am doing right now is reminding people that the human voice may not necessarily be the most authentic. So now is the best time to channel. And
Mm.
about religion. If I'm calling in Jesus, I'm not like doing like this whole, I work with a lot of recovering Catholics. It's more like, who was Jesus as a brother, as a teacher, as someone who held his arms open, or who was, Isis, like the
Yeah.
goddess, Egyptian goddess, she's the mother, right? It doesn't really matter who we channel, but I do feel that reinforcing the higher frequency energies, channeling that information is so valuable right now because we don't know what truth is always.
Yeah. Well, and I love that invitation because I think there's a lot of people who are scared or timid to be put in a position where they can be available to channel. And I
Yeah,
think there's so much of it where it's like if you set yourself up in intention and in integrity with a
yeah,
specific deity, someone who you're already familiar with and comfortable with, right? Like you know their personality, you've read about them, you felt their energy, you know their presence, they know when they're with you. And then to be a vessel for that is a healing and clearing experience in and of itself because
it
you're
is.
you're able to bring in the embodiment of who they are. And so I've been a huge fan of deity yoga where you're really embodying their energy, their essence as you channel, as you bring their wisdom forward and to feel them in your, not even just in your presence, but in your physical container. It feels amazing because they're leveling you up. They have that frequency, they have that energy of a higher dimension that usually is pretty intangible for us. And now we're calling it forward to be present with us. And then the voice comes through or the message comes through, their knowingness comes through. And if you're always in your sovereignty, if you're always in your free will, you can all be like, okay, now I'm no longer available for this, and you separate. Right. And so it's this constant recognition of like, this is who I am. This is what it feels like to be in unison with a deity, to utilize their voice forward, to mix with mine, to my filter, if you will. And then what is it like to like, okay, and now I release you. Thank you for your presence, your being, your knowingness, your authenticity, your whatever it is that was brought forward. And now we're separated once again. And what you're left with is this blessing of this higher ascended energy. And so it feels amazing. This is just one technique to like, yeah, it's one way to really bust right out of the chaotic, disrupted, heavy energy that we're all feeling right now. Is like, do that work, whether it's a personal practice that you're doing just for yourself or you're doing it like as a channeling for a group.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've never heard of deity yoga. I love that. Like I don't do yoga as a regular practice, but I would do that for sure. Because
Yeah.
that, wow, just so healing on so many levels. And I was going to say, I think where most people struggle is, and this is where I love teaching, and I'm sure you do too. It's like, well, how, I can't talk to Buddha. Like, who am I? You know, there's a self-worth thing too. So feeling that presence and really embracing. And I love it when people like start hearing, sensing. It's not like I'm hearing voices like my husband talking to me out there, for example. It's like in my head, and it's just kind of knowing this is the message I need to feel, hear, sense right now.
Mhm.
And then just start writing down what you're getting, because, and I'll say this, if a lot of your listeners, do they do this deity
Yeah.
yoga? Okay,
No, I would say no. This is something that I've been practicing ever since I went to Japan for my Reiki pilgrimage, of
nice.
really understanding how do we connect with Buddha? How do we connect with the deities of Mount Karama, and how are they connected to the Reiki symbols? So this is
Yeah,
something I teach in my like Reiki Masters master class. Like it's not information readily accessible to the West. It's something that's held sacred in Japan amongst
yeah,
the Reiki practitioners there, and it's just been lost. It's been lost to the West. So I'm reclaiming a lot of those original practices, and and learning how to, okay, here's the main practice of it, and then how can we do it with other deities? How can we do it with the ones that we're more readily available for, whether that's Archangel Michael or that is Shiva or whoever it may be.
yeah. That's really cool. I like that. Oh, I'd love to go to Japan.
We have
Um,
our pilgrimage coming up again in May. There's a couple more spots left. You're welcome to join.
I'm like, hey, what? When is it? We'll help you
Uh,
put that. What is
yeah,
it?
May 9th through the 16th with Roots of Life. Bruce Taylor is a very traditional Reiki teacher, trainer, and he does these amazing pilgrimages where we really get to the shamanic roots of Reiki. We meet the head priests and go to temple spaces that are typically unopened to the public. It is a pilgrimage. It will change your life. Like I absolutely, I absolutely love it. And so I was introduced to a lot of these concepts that are so unfamiliar to the West, but it totally makes sense. And so I've been practicing ways in which I can bring in these energies and really feel their power, their presence throughout my body.
Yeah. I mean, they're ancient. This is stuff that they've been doing for thousands of years. And I mean, we can get into like what happened, that whole, let's just pretend like that's not happening and look more at where we are right
Right? Totally.
now. Scientific, quantitative. I do think that we're moving back into the qualitative aspects of being and realizing that's why we do what we do, the intuitive strengthening. Yeah. I mean, I could go off on a total tangent. You saw me just do it in my head, and I'm like, I'm not.
Yep. Like we could go there. We could totally go there.
No, no. Maybe in another podcast, we'll see. I mean, maybe people have questions stemming from this one, but yeah, that sounds amazing. Unfortunately, I already have something those dates, but I will stay tuned because that sounds like it's right up my alley. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So
So,
what
yeah.
other practices do you like to do to kind of help you find your center space? Like what are your go-tos?
Um, well, I have one of the first things I teach in the metamorphosis, the mentorship that I do is just how to open space, right? You do it with the directions, right?
Mhm. Yep.
I have golden pillars that I use with one in the center, and they all connect and they extend up to the heavens, down to the core of the earth. And I say this because it doesn't matter what practice you're using, just key.
Right.
I think back to like when I was in fifth grade playing with the Ouija boards, and I go, oh my God, like it's whatever we were inviting in because we had no idea what we were doing. Like I think about it now. I mean, and it's not a defense mechanism or like a protective shield. It's more of like it's intention.
Yep.
Said it earlier. It's all about the intention. I'm opening and holding the space to bring in these aspects of light and love to this planet because she needs it. We need it. Um, so that's one. I do open up the space. I'm constantly checking where I am, like physically, like what's my body doing? How am I feeling emotionally, mentally, where I'm into it. And it's quick. opening up like a flower in the top of my head, a lotus, and it just shoots up, connects, and then I connect myself directly to the earth as well. One of my favorites, though, is I'll give you actually two. Um, there are a lot of times where I feel like because of who I am, and I always feel like I'm just open, and I don't, I can absorb and buffer a lot. You probably get that too.
Yeah.
But what happens is, like I said, that feeling in my body, that kind of solar plexus, like, ooh, someone's dumping on me right now, and I can feel it, and I start like, is this mine? No. The minute that I feel it, if it's a client, if it's a family member, a friend, or whatever, I'll pretend like I'm in a limousine driving. And they taught this to me. Like, do this. I'm driving in the limousine, the person's talking, and I'm like, I'm going to roll up the window because I'm just going to put like glass in front of me so that it's pelting off the glass instead of absorbing into my field.
Yes.
Works. Like, so I'll be like,
Yes.
doing it. But it absolutely makes a difference. The minute that I start feeling that in my body, like that, oh, this is not feeling good.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
that,
love that visualization of like I'm just creating this glass plate. They can still see me, but I'm not having to absorb it all.
yeah, they talk about that with narcissists too. I don't know if you know Cindy Dale. She's amazing. Cindidale. She's one of the mentors that I work with, and she just, oh, anyway, she talks a lot about healers and narcissists. And those two really go hand in hand, unfortunately, because the healer always wants to heal, and the narcissist always wants to find a better, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was my first marriage.
It's,
Uh-huh.
yeah. But she talks about putting up a disco ball around you, because basically what they do as narcissists is they'll reflect back to you all the beauty that you are in the onset, and then they get you and they hook you in, and then you're like, oh my gosh, well, they had this tragic childhood, I'm going to save them, and all the, we don't mean to do it, but she's like, the minute that you catch that, put the mirrors up and reflect back to them what they're unloading onto you, and they do it. They're brilliant at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one, or maybe two. The limo driver and the mirrors. The other one that I like is I like working with cherub angels. Some people use a waterfall, but like when I've picked something up, so I do that breath work, breathing in my name, breathing out that person or situation. And then I will close my eyes, like after I do a reading or several readings in a row, for example, or after my day of working with my mentees, I'll just imagine this pink liquid light coming down through the top of my head. And I always envision it like there are three little angels above me, and they're holding like glass pitchers of this pink liquid healing light. And I can see their little wings. I can see their chubby cheeks and pudgy little bellies and diapers, whether they're real or not. It's imagination, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And then they will just pour that pink liquid healing light down through my crown. And I can literally even now feel it moving all through my body, like making my organs sparkle, like Mr. Clean. Remember those commercials? And
Mm-hmm.
all the way down my legs to my feet, and just let it flow out my feet, picking up the residues. I love that.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's beautiful.
And
Mm-hmm.
then fly away to their little cherub angel mommies. So
Oh, that's great. That's so fun.
it makes me smile. But that cleansing part is huge for sure.
Yeah. So we have like the cleansing practices and then just like this knowingness, this intention setting of what I'm available for today. Like I think when we wake up in the morning, we go straight to go, 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 rush, 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 do all of the things. There's something that I think in myself, what I recognized when I really started making energetic shifts in my life was I went from this frantic morning energy into a state of flow in the morning. And now, like, I used to get so dysregulated just by like trying to get my kids out the door and making everyone's breakfast and making like not eating myself and like rush, 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 rush into I'm worthy of the 5 minutes it takes to like get centered in the morning, to do a morning meditation or to take an intentional shower versus like just thinking of all the things I have to do in my brain. Right. And like setting your day up. Like one of my favorite things to do in the morning is to have a morning music playlist that gets me motivated, that gets me excited, that I can dance through my morning and my hour song. So if I'm doing all the same things. I'm making the breakfast, I'm packing the lunches and And now I'm like, I get to eat while I'm doing that. And I'm moving my body. I'm feeling the music. I'm listening to the lyrics and I'm vibing with it. So it's a high vibe, intentional music set that makes me feel good. So it's kind of like whatever is your music. I don't care what genre it is, but does it help you feel leveled up, excited for the day, knowing that your day is a blessed day? And then starting in that energy so that when things show up, you're using all of what Jess just gave us of going, nope, that's not mine. Oh, nope, that's not mine. I can clear that. I can move that through. And you're staying on this wavelength of like high vibe, intentional energy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love, well, what's funny is that's what Isabella, my daughter, and I do. When she wakes
Yeah.
up, make pancakes and we listen to music. And it sets this tone. So I love that you're doing it too.
Absolutely. If I could promote that to everyone because it's doable, like get your Pandora, your Spotify, or whatever playlist that you have and play positive, intentional music to set your day off right. Like if you're waking up and you're listening to Money Marketplace and NPR, is that setting your vibe for the day? It is. It is. But is that the vibe you want? Like,
Right.
right?
Like,
Like,
what do you want to be introducing? Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. The other thing too, I was going to mention it earlier, but I'm looking outside. I love cardinals. Like I don't know if you can see.
mhm.
There's a whole story there for another time maybe. But I look out my window. There are wrens and squirrels, and that's the other thing. I'm reminded every day too that the animals speak to us. I'm sure you talk about it as well.
Absolutely.
So when we're stuck, yesterday, an owl, a barred owl, was sitting right outside our bathroom window. It's on my Instagram. So if you want to look, it's just my name and YSP, but it just sat there and my husband's like banging on the window. I'm like, stop, he's going to fly away. But the owl showed up right at a time when, like, I started teaching this online group class, and they always show up in the midst of these powerful things that I'm about to introduce.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're like, you don't need to be nervous. We've got this. And the owl was just like, hey, what's up? Let me turn my head this way, check you out, turn my head that way. Totally chill. And I'm like, that is the most beautiful thing. But those little, I mean, I don't see an owl every day, but when they show up, yeah, it's huge. But the squirrel's about planting seeds. The wren is about, like, for me, the male and female wrens they carry the load. It's about the balance of masculine and feminine. So every animal, creature, color, number, everything means something. And if we can stop long enough to see that, that's another message. It's like the channeling, just maybe
Yeah.
not correct.
Right.
You know?
And I feel like if we're watching for those signs of support, like if
Yeah,
we're looking, knowing that the universe is showing up for us, whether that is in, a feather in your on your path, or the animals showing up at your window, or if you're out for a walk and you see a rainbow, like whatever it is, like there's that space of gratitude that the natural world is trying to speak to us. And it all comes to that space of, are you an open and available to even see the blessings all around you?
yeah,
Like so often when we're in this heavy energy, our noses to the grindstone, we're keeping our head down, we're walking on the path, and we're not lifting our heads up to seeing the beauty of the world all around us.
yeah,
And we just dismiss it. And what if we didn't? What if we stopped and smelled the roses? What if we took our time? What if we were more mindful about what are the energy that we're using to have repeated thought patterns? Like so much of our subconscious is just repeat again and again and again, overthinking the conversations that we had or the to-do list that we have. And what if we can quiet that all down to recognize, wow, the daffodils are starting to peek out, or there like whatever natural beauty is around you, can we honor that? Can we witness that when we're washing the dishes, when we're watering the plants, when we're doing our mundane tasks? Can we be in a state of gratitude rather than in our brain patterns of just repeated thoughts? Because
yeah.
they're just too much. they're just too much.
They are. It's using that mind and heart time wisely.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, Grace, I agree. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I thinking about this thing again? Like I teach this. I should. Da, 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 da,
Yes.
da.
Right. Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's about making good, positive use of that time when we can remember to do so again.
Yeah. It becomes easier. I think it starts with a bit of like thought catching, like, oh, there's that pattern again. It's having that awareness. I
Yeah.
think so much of our healing process, we need the awareness to come first. Awareness is always the first step of healing. So, oh, there I'm in a pattern. Oh, there I had that reaction that like I always do, but I want to intentionally change it. Like whatever it is, like having the awareness of I'm creating my thoughts. I'm creating my external reality of my situations. Can I take responsibility of that? And therefore I'm moving out of victimhood mode and into empowerment of going, I choose what I get to see. I choose what I get to experience. I choose the situations I'm in. And that therefore I'm going to be more intentional about which circles I participate in, what thoughts I participate in. But it all comes down to awareness of like, how does that show make me feel? How does scrolling make me feel? Like whatever it may be, whatever activity it is of going. And sometimes it's just like I'm in a car and I'm mad at the traffic and I'm in a spiral of like frustration of going, I can make a new choice even here of giving out a compassionate, loving energy and then turning on the music to something positive, listening to a positive podcast that's positive, changing the energy from within to going, I have another choice. I did this the other day. I think I was really angry or frustrated, or I had just an immense amount of emotions. And I'm like, what can I do right now to switch out of this energy? And I turned on guided visualization. And it was an hour long, like it was a long one. And I was like a completely different person by the time it ended. I was so grateful for it. I'm like, I have the 45 minutes, I have the hour to do this container because I am just pissed off right now. Like, life could, like, I'm so mad, like, whatever it was. And going, I'm recognizing my energy, what's going to shift me out of it. And to do a whole hour, I think it was like, I set it all up. I was like, I'm going to do an Epsom salt bath with the meditation. Like, I'm going to put the essential oils in. I'm going to light the candles. I'm going to do it totally up because I got to get out of this energy. Right. And
Yeah.
so you give yourself the opportunity, like, it's okay that you're frustrated. It's okay. Like, it's okay. And you have a choice to like, do you want to stay in it or do you want to shift out of it?
Yeah.
What do you need to shift out of it? It could have been 5 minutes for someone else. I needed a freaking hour. Like, I needed the whole thing.
Yeah. And if you're trapped like in an office or you're in a place where you obviously can't, excuse me, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and make an Epsom salt bath in the toilet. Like
Yeah,
there's
right.
just finding something, getting outside, making an excuse. Yeah, again, there's that number four again. Like, what can you foundationally do? But I love it. For me, like with traffic, it's a personal kind of joke. Like, I don't like it when people ride my tail, and it's an aside, but I'm just gonna throw it out there because it's funny. I don't like it. It makes me nervous. My husband does it to other people, and I like punch him, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So so when I see that and then I see people doing it to me, I just want to stop my car, slam on the brakes, walk out and tell them to back the F off, but I don't. Instead, what I imagine, and this was advice from a Buddhist that I was friends with, who said, imagine that they just have to take a really big dump and they're trying to find a toilet.
Right. That
Like,
will elicit that compassion right away.
it's compassion and humor. Because then I'm like, oh my God, like the anguish they must be going through right now, as opposed to it being about me, it becomes like, it really does become, oh, that is their stuff.
Yeah.
They just have to poop really bad. I mean, and it's like, yeah, you're making it up, but it does, or they have a pregnant wife in their passenger seat who's about to have a baby. Like recreating the story
Yes.
so that it doesn't become about us, or it isn't. We realize, wait, this isn't even really about me to begin with. It's hard to do, but once you can like shift the neurological pathways, like our
Yes.
need responses to it, like you were saying, it's a challenge, but it starts to sink in.
Yeah, for sure. I love that.
And then it benefits everybody. It's not just and it's a nonverbal benefit.
Right.
Uh,
Well, and I think that like I'm loving this conversation because like you can see there's so many small little tangible things that we can have
Redirect.
easy exit to. Like it's accessible to everyone. You don't have to study for years and years and years to do these practices. It's just about starting with what can you do today? What's going to help you feel good today?
Yeah.
And it does, and I think that's so much of, a lot of times energy workers, healers will be down on themselves because they're not this love and light, beautiful creature 100% of the time. And I'm like, no one is. No one is. We are all human as well as spiritual beings. And we're wearing a human suit in an extreme time in this world. Right. So like it's okay. And what's going to feel good? Like, and I think it's always like, do the thing that feels good. What's the next thing you can do that's going to feel good? And that just having that question is going to help you shift.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Oh gosh, the whole like I'm a spiritual being in a human suit. It can be rough down here, you guys. It can.
And it too, like being in tune with these with higher frequencies. It's like sometimes I'm like, well, why don't you come down here?
Yeah, can you just come fix it, please?
Make it. And they do. That's a divine timing thing. Whoa, my goodness, that's tough.
Well, and I
That's
feel like
oh
as like a star seed, like they are, like of course we are. Of course we're there. You are a star seed embodied in this human suit doing the work because no, we can't physically come down and like shift politics, but we can send so many star seeds who are innately aware of the energy that's happening
yeah.
to help everyone shift up and out. That is the beauty of all of this. Like, so no, they can't directly influence, but they can indirectly. I'm here indirectly because of them shifting timelines and shifting energies and doing the work. And so I'm like, thank you for being here.
Yeah. I like to make jokes out of it and give them a hard time. You're
Uh-huh.
like, no, but it's true. And I was gonna say too, I think a lot of us are mm, I feel sense that a lot of us are potentially in situations which seem kind of hopeless in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cases. And I mean, I grew up. My family was a recovering alcoholic house. I grew up with the 12 steps and Al-Anon and the Serenity Prayer. And I was going to say, I mean, a lot of what I'm telling people right now too is it's like relinquish the control. You've got to give it to the powers that be.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for those of us who are fixers, who are able to do things, to change things, to plant seeds of hope and love in situations where it's impossible, where the other person is the only person that can make that change.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely. Like
yeah,
I share this with my students all the time of like, we can't want the healing more than the other person.
right. It
They
just won't.
have to want it. It won't work. It won't work. And then you're wasting your energy, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your talents on someone who isn't open for healing. They're not open for change. What's the point? So
Not yet. So that's where
yes,
we.
right. And so then focus on you, be the example of transformation, be the example of empowerment. And then hopefully in their witnessing of that, they'll choose that they're ready to heal and that they
Yeah.
want change.
And sometimes they have to go through some hefty stuff, and you have to sit there and just go, "Oh my gosh, help!"
Yeah,
It's trust, it's faith. These are the higher frequency virtues that we're all, as healers, working on right now. So I'm sending out. I don't know whoever's listening in right now. If you're going through that, I am sending such huge hugs. I know you are too. Like
mm-hmm.
it's been all around me, but it's actually a part of our leveling up. You know that.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think this has been a really beautiful, amazing conversation with lots of tangible techniques that everyone can utilize. I would love for you to share with our audience if someone wanted to work with you, what would that look like? How would they get a hold of you? Feel free to share.
So my website is jessicamangum.com. And you've got my information. You said you posted it. It's the spelling of my name and all that. Most people
Yep.
say
So
Matt.
I'll put everything in the show notes with all of Jess's links and how to get a hold of her for sure.
Yeah. One of the things that I do, people are interested in mentoring, is to go to my offerings. And the Metamorphosis mentorship is where most people start. And they can just talk to me free of charge, see what's going on, you know,
I
support.
love that. I love that. And I hear that you have a very active YouTube channel. So all of those lovely resources will be in the show notes. Is there any final message that you want to give to our listeners?
I'm hearing just hang in there. We love you. You got this is part of the empowerment process. Yeah. It'll
Beautiful.
only make you stronger. We're all in this together. Lots of messages.
Yeah, they're showering them in. I love that.
I'm gonna have to do my neck exercises now.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Jess, for being on the show today. I know this is going to be so empowering for our audience, uplifting for our audience. And so I want to just thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being with us. And until next time, I hope that all of our listeners really receive the beauty, the benefit, the love, the support that they need through all of their spirit team, their helpers, and that they can walk with such grace and compassion for themselves as we do this work. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Take care, everyone.